This episode is brought to you by Nespresso and Samra Origins by the Weekend Coffee Collection.
Introducing Samra Origins. My collaboration with Nespresso is a connection to my roots, to my mother, Samra. Coffee that hits the right notes. It transports you. Crafted with unique notes and bold, soaring flavors. Experience a taste that moves you. Nespresso and Samra Origins.
Discover more at Nespresso.com.
We have just ticked off the quarterfinals of the URC, and it was nothing if not dramatic. We'll be deep diving every single game, including stats and highlights, before making our predictions for the semi-finals. This is the URC Rewind. Let's start the show.
You're listening to Uniter Rugby Rewind.
I am joined by the usual cast, our refreshed cast, our fresh cast of Adam, Ben, and Muhammed. Good evening, gents.
Good evening.
Good evening.
Good evening.
As always, we get straight into it. And now we're going to go through the fixtures in reverse order this evening, I have decided. And it's tempting to almost go through the game backwards as well and start with the end. But we're not going to. We're going to talk about the 100 minutes of it that preceded the end and have a Sharks versus Munster chat. So, Muhammed, as the Sharks fan on the panel, let's stick the conversation initially to the actual game itself before the penalty shootout. What did you make of that one?
Glad to have won. Very stressful game to watch. Munster were incredible the first half. They managed it incredibly well. But the Sharks having a poor first half is nothing new. We then slowly came back in the second half, and the 2 periods of extra time were somewhat of a stalemate as well. So, I was maybe a bit disappointed initially when we conceded the first try. But then when I looked at the replay, I saw that not Apalele Fasi, but Makazolama Pipi, the ball, he was in the right position, and as we know in rugby, at times it's the bounce of the ball. So I can't really fault him for that. Like live, I was somewhat disappointed, and I realized, actually, it's not his fault at all. It's just the bounce of the ball. Excellent cross kick there by Munster. I was concerned about the quality of Craig Casey and Jack Crowley, and it really pushed through. Calvin Nash was good. Nankivell seemed to start well and then sort of poorly. Generally, the Sharks would sort of get a bit of ascendancy with the bench, but the Munster bench was pretty solid as well. I mean, when they swapped their front row out and they started to realize that Josh Wycherley and Dermot Barron were struggling somewhat, they both and that was like early second half, they both all of a sudden had to go off the field. And so the starting front row with Scannell and I think Archer stayed on. I think Mullen came back on. And then that sort of showed them up again. Munster obviously won the first half by 7 points, but then the Sharks sort of evened things up and it ended at 24-24. Notes that I have here, because I realized we're going backwards. From the Sharks' perspective, Apalele Fasi, excellent again. What would we do without Ethan Hooker?
He's kind of the player I wanted to call out because of that star-studded team that the Sharks undoubtedly have. Ethan Hooker's arguably been the player of the season.
Absolutely. I mean, this guy played inside center for the baby box, for the junior Springboks. Every year at one or two of the South African teams, we always get somebody breaking through, like we see with Sasha Feinberg and Gombe Zulu. Ethan Hooker, he makes so few mistakes. He's just so accurate with everything under the high ball, not just scoring tries, tackling, making the right decisions, defensive. How many times has he saved us? Look, I thought that he's talented and he's going to break through. And on the message boards, people were saying this guy is talented. But I had no idea he was going to play this well. And this hops back to what we discussed last week. Ethan Hooker's having a fantastic season, right? If next season he's slightly less than what he's playing now, and remember, we see this in a lot of professional sports, there's the second season syndrome. It is not always the player itself's fault. I do not want to see anybody. Well, you're going to see it on Facebook, but on numerous message boards and across the internet saying, "Oh no, Ethan Hooker was good last season, but obviously he's crap now." No, he's a good player. Everybody will have a dip. He's exceeding my expectations. Look, there's a lot of players in the Sharks that are playing well to a degree. I'd like to highlight Vincent Chituka has had a really consistent season as well. Jason Jenkins actually had a poor season at the start because remember we had a lot of expectations for Jason Jenkins. He's coming from Leinster. He's South African. He used to play for the Bulls. He's a lock. All those things factor into people saying, and remember, there's just always an assumption that, oh, he's coming from overseas and the Sharks got him back and he's like in his late.
This moment here,
Yeah.
the Sharks thought they'd won it on 73 minutes. The
I
way they would pile on him, and I was
I
like, lads,
was
there's a long
really
way to go yet.
I was really disappointed in that. I was a bit concerned there because it's almost like a football league type of thing, and we'll get to the football analogies later. But yes, he scored, but there was like what 6.5 minutes left. How much time was left?
7 minutes.
7 minutes. Yeah. Score and then go back. Also, it looked as if Fez Mbata, who by the way also had an up and down season, but seems to have hit form all of a sudden. Fez Mbata, who was quite close to Bram Renike, who unfortunately passed away this week, was absolutely crying at the start when they were having the moment of silence for Bram Renike. When these guys jumped onto Fez Mbata, I was like, "Whoa, guys, there's a lot of time left. Let's calm down." And then on the other side, Fez Mbata at the restart was like, "Oh, I'm a bit injured." So I was like, "Did you guys just hurt the replacement hooker? Well, what's going on here? We're trying to win the game. Is this a ploy to get Bongi Mbanabi on?" But no. The other thing I'd like to say is that Fez Mbata, Mchunu, Andrew Jacobs, these guys for most of the season have been the replacement front row. At 1 or 2 games, I'll have to go look at the fixtures. They did start and they didn't play so well. Maybe earlier in the season when we didn't have Bogi Manambi, Oksumche, and Vincent Koch. These guys, similar to Jason Jenkins, didn't have a great season at the start. And Mchunu, another guy similar to Ethan Hooker, breaks through from the junior system, has a excellent first season, right? Good in the scrums, not a liability, but excellent with the ball in hand. Obviously, the replay of him sort of having that sort of 50-meter run, I believe it was against the Lions. The long and the short of it is, these are also hitting form. Emil van der Heeren's coming off the bench. He's making an impact. I was concerned because we lost Jenkins early. And Jenkins has actually had a good couple of games recently. So that was because Emil had to get onto the Van der Heeren had to get onto the field quite early. And as we saw in the Stormers game, when you lose a lock early, especially a physical lock, that's a bit of a concern. Even Francois Venter, who's looked a shadow of what he used to be. He came on and he played quite well. I'm glad we won. We'll talk about the greater circumstances in a bit later. But yeah, I'll hand it over to our Irish correspondent Adam now. I think I've said enough. Yeah.
Yeah, Adam, what's the view on the Munster performance? You know, obviously it was in the lead for so much of that game, ended up taking it to extra time, away from home, very Munstery.
Very Munstery. They've had a quite an emotional week. I'd preface in saying my thoughts were with the Munster family this week as Anthony Foley's mother passed this week, as well as one of their former team managers, his wife also passed. So this Munster camp was quite emotional. Ian Costello, the coach, was talking about how they're going to manage emotion and things like that. I think with Munster, they've got a very proud tradition, very family-based club. So I think they came in with a lot of emotion. They came in much like the Sharks as well with what's happened in the past couple of weeks. I think Munster put in quite a brave performance. I don't think there's anything to really, bar the scrumming sort of towards the end. I feel like every time they had a scrum, it was sort of like, you know, it would have been a turnover in the extra minute, in the extra time, and they would have had a scrum. You saw Scannell's face. I think it was just always just like that sort of sense of, oh, right, scrum again. I think Munster were brilliant in the first half, but as Muhammed said, it's the Sharks in the first half. I've seen it myself as an Ulster fan. We were like 21 points ahead at some point. You know, at the end of the day, I think Munster have a lot to be proud of. They've got a lot of players leaving well, three of their stalwarts essentially leaving as well at the end of the season with
They haven't mentioned
Archer.
it.
Well, yeah, they haven't. Yeah, but I think that it's a lot of emotion, a lot of passion. I think Craig Casey's was unbelievable. Um, Not to say that I don't think things slowed down when Murray came on, but almost looking at the extra time side of things, it was such a sensible substitution to make just to calm down things. And of course, he's also a kicker as well. But we could have never really predicted how the game would have ended just by um how long it went. It just felt like it went on forever, which it did. But as I said, Nash had a really good game. He was sort of snubbed this year in terms of Ireland's spot. The Irish wings at the minute are really good and really rich in what we have and our resources. So and Jack Crawley as well. I couldn't really fault his game. He's had a bit of like like a bit of trouble with kicking. And we have like Leinster fans and Munster fans constantly at each other going, "Oh, Prendergast would have made that one," or "Oh, Crawley would have made that one." But at the end of the day, their kicking has been shoddy. I think he's sort of the forgotten man in Irish rugby at the minute. But he showed how he can command a game quite well. Um, I just think there's nothing I can imagine as a Munster fan that it is quite heartbreaking, that being some of your players' last ever game for Munster. But I think they can leave with their heads held high. 24 all, 100 minutes played, all that really missed all that really was basically the decider was um what's his name in 22, Roy Scannell's last kick. Well, it was his first kick in this sort of setup of things. But looking at the stats, I was looking at it this morning just to have it like a refresher. But 206 tackles made by Munster, with 45 of them being missed. It's incredible, but it shows that that's the extra time fatigue. And the tackle success was around about 76% to 77. I think a lot of these players would be hurting, a lot of them, but I think the Sharks played brilliantly as well. I think their
Do
reply
you
back.
really? You're the first person
Well,
I've heard say that all season.
Well, I think in the second half, I think it's sort of like that idea of Ethan Hooker, that like he was just unbelievable for me. He sort of reminded me of like just a big bumbling like winger. But yeah, I think maybe I'll retract the statement that I said, but I'd say oh, the comments are gonna have me for that one now. But yeah, I think Munster, it could have been Munster's for the taking. Then again, we kind of saw what happened.
I just feel
The
like the Sharks just were just messing around and just couldn't get it finished. Like, I just want to like look at this, and hopefully the replay doesn't let me down like it does so often. Right, so this is for Nash's try. The Munster pass here. This ball goes to nobody. It's behind Crowley, and he kind of waits there. Nobody's pressuring him. No one's going, right, that ball's gone to ground. Let's go and get all over it. Let's stop him. They just all kind of stand there and go on, then put the cross kick in, and then it's try time. And the bit that sums up the Sharks for me is that I think it was around the 70 minutes. Hendrickse hangs a bomb up, and then either Fassi or Mapimpi reclaims it. They get the ball back. The ball gets back in Hendrickse's hands. He spins it, right-handed pass. It goes to no one. It goes behind someone. They all have to scramble back. Now they've lost 20 meters. And then they pick and go, pick and go, pick and go. Hangs another bomb up, exactly the same mirror image. Either Fazio Mapimpi gathers it, gets it back to him. He passes it, throws it behind someone again. They lose another 20 meters, and then again, and then it repeats for a third time. In 2 minutes, they did this exact same sequence of play 3 times. And the fact that that extra time period was all Sharks, and they didn't manage to even get a kick at poles out of it.
Look, the reality is that we ride our luck a lot this season. There's not really been one convincing performance, maybe here and there, whatever. Maybe when we beat the Lions the second time, because the Lions beat us the first time, it was a bit of a Lions series where we had to play Lions back to back because of the scheduled fixtures. the things I take from it also is Mike Haley made a great impact off the bench. That Conor Murray kick was quite good. I mean, there
Yeah.
was a lot of pressure. Some might say, "Oh well, it's not that far away," and that type of thing. You still have to take the kick. Tom Ahern made a great impact. And the thing that I was thinking a lot in the first half when I was watching Munster was in the Six Nations, it was Sam Pendergrast and who was the starting scrum half again? I forget.
Gibson
Um,
Park.
Gibson Park, Jameson Gibson Park, right? And that's what everybody was talking about. But was this sort of a statement, even though Munster actually lost this game, might have helped a bit more if they had won it. But I'd say Jack Crowley and Craig Casey get on that plane back to Ireland going like, yeah, we're still here. People forget
Yeah.
about us. Yeah.
I think the issue with Casey was that this year he was sort of injured a lot. He was injured for the Six Nations.
Yeah.
He was also injured in the November internationals. I think he would have the issue with talking about Gibson Park, and we're going to find this harshly online, is that he's sort of like untouchable. I think with Gibson Park is that he's going to slow down eventually, and Craig Casey is going to become the natural successor. I think we would have seen that if he didn't have many injury troubles, but we're seeing the Craig Casey that, for example, the season that they won the URC, he was incredible. But then, knocks happen and stuff like that. It's always at the wrong time for Casey, I'd say. But see for Crawley as well, I just don't know. Prendergast is really good, but Crawley is also very good. And I think it's just whatever Andy Farrell thinks. I think he likes his consistent sort of backline of Leinster and Bundyaki, which we're going to probably see for the Lions.
Yeah, we'll talk about that in a minute. But now let's get on to the juicy bit then. So Winkgate, the biggest scandal to befall rugby since ever. What do we think, Vern? What do we think of the wink? What do we think of Jaden Hendrickse, whose name according to the URC app doesn't have a Y in it, but I always thought it did. Him getting cramp and then winking at Jack Crowley. What did we make of it?
It's just gamesmanship, isn't it? And I think in the spirit of the game, maybe not great, but in the heat of the moment, you're going to do anything to get that edge. And Munster had already missed their first kicks. They were playing catch up anyway at that point. I have seen a enlarged photograph of his calf, and it did look like there was pretty bad cramp, because a calf muscle doesn't look like that if you're not suffering from cramp. Mike Adamson's gone over, and I know Crowley's kind of had a bit of a word and said, I'm going to take the kick anyway. Mike Adamson steps in and goes, no, I'm going to get them off the pitch first. Coach comes in. There's some words between Mike Adamson and the coach. The coach again shepherded off at a rate of knots. And then Crowley nails the kick. I think it's much ado about nothing. I don't think it's anywhere near the scandals we've had in the past. Bloodgate would be the one that sticks out as the biggest scandal. I don't think there's anywhere near that. I think it's just gamesmanship. And I think it's like Neymar. He'll roll out, he gets fouled, but instead of rolling over once and getting up, he rolls over 6 times in the touch, over the sideline, and has a bit of a moan about it. I think it's just maybe some footballing antics are creeping into rugby that purists won't like, but I don't think it's a big deal. I've seen some horrible things said on social media, and quite racist things as well. I saw Jim Hamilton, to be fair, called out this afternoon. That's not proportionate at all. We can't go down that route. You can have a bit of your japes about it and have a bit of a laugh about it, but Munster playing catch up at that point. It'd be different if it was 0-0 and they were even, but they weren't. So I don't think it's a big deal. Not for me.
Go on, Adam.
I think the biggest crime to happen on that pitch at that time was the fella that randomly came on in jeans, and he tried to have a go at Jack Crowley as well. And I was just like, where's this guy came from? And like that was the big thing for me. I was just like, oh yeah, the smile and the wink and everything, but who's this fella that's came on in a white polo and jeans? He just came on and was just giving it all to Jack Crowley, and I was like, who is this? Like, I presume it was a doctor, but I was just like, why? Like, you don't see him normally come on in the field of play in a normal
Razzie
situation.
Erasmus.
Yeah, I was gonna say it might as well be Razzie Erasmus. He's just running on. But you don't see him normally come onto the pitch. That's the only thing that I found a bit dodgy about it. You don't normally see them come on in the actual pitch of play. But why is he came on now? Is the miracle like the deep heat, or has he got the sponge or something? But
magic sponge. The whole thing reminds me of a bit, and some of the, not all of you on the call might remember this, but Ben will. Do you remember in the 2006 Euros when Wayne Rooney stamped on that bloke and Ronaldo winked at him? And it became Ronaldo's fault that Wayne Rooney had stamped on a man.
And then the red top hate mail started in earnest that night,
Yeah.
if not the following day. Yeah, it was mad. Ronaldo, you've got footballers at that level, rugby players at that level. You know, they're all internationals. Hendricks obviously does play for the Springboks with his brother at time to time. You know, this is elite competition with elite players at elite point in the competition where, you know, it's winner takes all. And you're going to have that competitive edge. Your competitive edge will kick in before you actually think about what you're doing. That's what it is.
Yeah,
Ronaldo would have
yeah.
done that wink. It would have just been the right thing to do. He looks at his coach. Coach gives him a little bit of acknowledgement. Yeah, that was the right thing to do. Rooney took the bait. It's as simple as that. Rooney's competitive edge cost him. Ronaldo's competitive edge won them that game. You know, obviously went to penalties 2006, and it was repeated 2004. You know, it was a bit of a saga, England Portugal, that sort of mid-noughties period. You know, this constantly playing each other in knockout tournaments. But again, it's sport, and that's why we like it. And it's a debate. But the problem is the difference between 2006 and now is the way that people behave on social media. They just go too far.
Yeah.
I had a bit of a tiff. I had a bit of a falling out with someone on social media yesterday because he was calling out Adam Jones for the entire game. He was nothing wrong with his officiating. AP, you've got to wind your neck in sometimes, mate, and just be calmer with your comments on social media. It's as simple as that.
True.
Oh, what I would say is, you know, what would Michael Schumacher do in a penalty shootout? You know, what would Mike Tyson do in a penalty shootout? You know, like it's like this is just how it goes. We've seen, and you can say like, oh, it's football and things, and like I do think that it's gone a bit pearl clutchy about it. The people are like, oh, he should get cited for it. Like, shut up. Like when I say worse things have happened, like imagine explaining this to someone. Why are you so upset? Oh, well, it's because in a rugby match at the end, a man had cramp, but he was only pretending. Like, okay, right. And you're on day 2 of frothing about this, are you? Yes, like
it's people just get offended. It's almost this sense of faux outrage. And I'll give you like a really good example. It's Ricky Gervais. I don't know if you guys like him or not, but when he was doing stand-up once, he goes, the thing that he hates most about the way that people behave in society now is that I'll advertise piano lessons, and then someone rings me up and goes, "I don't want effing piano lessons," and it's like, well, then don't call me and tell me you don't want it. Is this for somebody else? And it's just that sort of faux outrage just need to be, and it's just it's unnecessarily polarizing, and it's gone from politics and society into sport, and it's not healthy. It becomes quite toxic, and no, where's the fun in that? It's just poisonous.
Yeah. Look, the reality is that we see subtle gamesmanship or shithousery, as it were,
or
in rugby. Yeah, or cheating in rugby. Often, one that's
career.
So I was gonna say, like hands in the ruck. John Smith, like having to go to the ref and say, "There, number 7, he's got his hand on the ball." Anyway,
kneel back, Pete Stringer. You know,
yeah. The one that's sort of subtle that works out for me is that earlier this season we were playing Zebre Palmer in Durban, and the game was a lot closer than everybody thought it would be. We've been over this twice already on this pod of like me saying Zebre Palmer had a clever tactic. We were just playing the same tactic that we were from the kickoff. Nobody somehow went into the huddle and said, "Okay, guys, let's change the tactic up because we're playing A, but the opposition is doing B, so we need to shift now to C." Right? The long and the short of it is we were just throwing the ball around, and Zebre Palmer were just waiting for us to intercept. They must have intercepted like 4 times in that game.
Yeah.
One interesting thing was in that game, their prop either got hurt, but he had to leave the field, and we were scrumming them in their 22, right? And we had mostly neutral and or dominant scrums, i.e. they hadn't dominated us at all, but we had dominated them on a few occasions. You can't dominate all the time, right? No matter what front row and or pack you have. That's just how it goes. And then their prop, Muhammed Hassan, he was told by the referee, "Okay, you have to leave. Your replacements come out." And he slowly walked, because the scrum was about 5 meters before the try line. And he slowly walked, and then he put his arm on the pole. And then the ref was trying to go on with the game, and then must have been another official or one of the Sharks players saying, "Hey, do you realize they've got 16 players on the field, right?" And then the ref asked him again, "Could you please," and politely, "could you please," but maybe a bit more sternly, "please depart the field." And he slowly started moving, and then he stopped in the in-goal area. And then the ref had to ask him at least 3 more times, so 5 times in total. The next week, the referees must have had their normal conference calls, as we do here, or probably also on Zoom, but maybe they're using Teams. And they decided, "Hey, look, let's cut this type of thing out. this player from Zebre was basically taking the piss. So to sort of slow the game down, and the shot clock wasn't, the game clock wasn't entirely off and that type of thing. And then they obviously punished a few teams at least one team in the next round where they realized, oh, this team actually had 16 players on, and so they just gave a penalty where easy 3 points where the player was, or something like that. So these types of things happen. Teams start getting under pressure. Even I want Sharks to do this, because people come to Durban and do this all the time. They slow the game. They just got on a plane from who knows where, and they come there. They play they get to the line out really slowly, and the referees first give a warning, and then they say, "Oh, maybe twice, maybe twice this whole season I've seen the referee say, "Oh, you took too long to get to the line out. Oh, short arm penalty to the opposition. Yeah. Now can't even compete in the line out," that type of thing. So these more subtle things happen. This is a bit more overt. I haven't had a lot of time today with other things going on. Only when I got home at around like past 6 or something was I able to go down a YouTube rabbit hole of shithousery, both in rugby and in football. So let's not be too. Oh, the last point I want to make is that Jayden Hendrikse did this, and if we still had lost, he would have been berated for it. As a Shark supporter, I'm happy he did it, but at the same time, I am also mature enough to understand that when Martin Keown did it to Ruud van Nistelrooy and it worked, I wasn't happy about that, to the extent that I still don't like Martin Keown. So if you want to be upset, you can be upset.
Trust me, Munster fans will never let this go. This is going to be a thing forever.
It's the beauty of the URC, though, because I had to catch myself a couple of times going, I'm watching, like, if you would have told us 10 years ago that we'd be watching Munster v Sharks, and like in South Africa, and it's 24-all, and I have to sit through 20 scrums in extra time, I'd be like, wow.
But the last thing I'll say on the wing is we only see what we're shown, and what we were shown was a close-up of Jayden Hendrikse's face. He's looking at Jack Crowley, and after a few moments, he winks. We know that Jack Crowley was giving a lot of verbals to Jayden Hendrikse. And I should say as well, Mike Adamson had said to Jack Crowley immediately, I will give you as much time as you need once these have left. So he could have just taken a chill pill. But so what we don't see is, like, Jack Crowley could have been chirping at Jayden Hendrikse, and Jayden Hendrikse has winked in response to that. No one's calling out Jack Crowley for it, you're not needing to be an expert lip reader to make out what he was saying. And we got a
full facial
shot of that, and no one's going, oh, that's a bad example for kids, etc., which if she was on the other foot, I'm sure it would. So I basically chill out, everybody. Okay.
To be fair though,
need to move on.
You've got next weekend again, Muhammed, so I haven't, and nor's you. So we need to talk about our games, last game of the season, please.
Leinster versus Scarlets. So, first versus eighth. A lot more competitive game than I think a lot of people were expecting.
Didn't feel like it, definitely.
No.
Absolutely. So, obviously, I'm the Scarlets fan, but because the custom on this podcast is that we talk about the winners first. So, Adam, Leinster performance. Look, they won 4 tries to 3. Never really looks like losing, but that didn't look like the best team in the league.
No, Leinster play a very vanilla brand of rugby, and I feel like it was shown in this game through moments of brilliance from the likes of, I kept on mentioning it on the group chat, Blair Murray. When you see him do something really cool, like score that really amazing try that he scored, and then you still look at like sort of the consistency of Leinster. They have got winning down to a T, but when it actually matters for a trophy, that's going to be the big question. I think it's just dead interesting. I found Leinster's, there we go, 65% possession. They just hold the ball and they know when to strike. They know what to do. I feel like they should be utilizing a lot more. There was again territory as well.
Tackles.
And the tackles, you know what I mean? Like, Leinster just hold on to the ball. They can hold on to the ball from the 0 minutes right up until the full time, and you'll get a score. You'll probably get like 2 scores out of it. It's just, I find it dead interesting watching Leinster, because as an Ulster fan, that we're directly affected by whatever Leinster do, just because they're sort of the annoying cousins down the road. Much like Kaelin, I share a deep distrust with Leinster.
Oh
just-
boy, here come the comments.
Oh well, honestly, it's wild because as soon as I saw the sort of the crowd, I was just like, the crowd for that game was not great, was it? And then I saw sort of the Leinster team, and I went, right, this is how it's going to go. RG Snyman's going to come on. I noticed how the commentator just kept on mentioning just the igniter of the bomb squad, and he came on to do relatively nothing. I was sort of noticing like all these sort of tropes about it. I just think that Leinster just have a well-oiled machine. I want to point out how their lineout was misfunctioning though all first half, and the hooker is a lion. So,
Both of them.
Both of them. Well, Dan Sheehan, I think is earned it. I'm not so sure about Ronan Kelleher.
Kelleher started, didn't he? I was quite surprised. Is that right?
Pardon?
Kelleher did start.
Yeah, Kelleher started. But
I was surprised. I was surprised about that.
It's sort of like they sort of like swap and change, because when I went a couple of weeks ago, I went to see Ulster Leinster, and then Dan Sheehan came on second half and scored a hat-trick within 30 minutes. And you're kind of like, are they utilizing his explosiveness coming off the bench? Do you want sort of Ronan Kelleher's game is like a little bit different to Sheehan. Sheehan's got the power. Sheehan sort of reminds me of like a Keith Wood type, whilst Ronan Kelleher is more like almost like a Rory Best and sort of like that sturdy old school prop sort of vibe. When he first broke into the scene, he was more like a Sheehan. I remember he was really quick, and I remember that's when everyone was sort of pushing him along.
Sheehan's significantly better than Kelleher right now. He's significantly better. There's a big gap. The gap's wide between those two at the moment.
I think Sheehan's the best hooker in the world.
He is, yeah. And I like saying that. Like, do you think Kelleher is one of the top in the top four in the like the British and Irish Lions setup? Like, no. That's what I mean. Like, it's just it really confused me, and I think you had sort of the consistencies in James Ryan got away with a lot of no arms rucks, but that's his thing now. It sort of goes in rucks just like that almost. So he never sort of close his hands in. You have that Gibson Park try. I'll use an example.
It's very good.
It was really, really good. But do you see how the crowd reacted? Sort of just sitting in the seats going, yes, D4 on tour.
What I'll quickly say about the crowd, Adam, is that if I'm a Glasgow fan or Glasgow board or CEO, anything to do with travel for this game, I'm paying for fans to get there. Make it intimidating at the RDS next weekend, because if Leinster aren't selling tickets, get the Glasgow lot to buy up thousands and get them over there, because make it because that was not intimidating for the Scarlets yesterday whatsoever. There was nothing about that yesterday. It was sparsely populated. It was very quiet, and I think that was that's something that Glasgow could take advantage of next weekend. I think.
Oh yeah, like I think I remember, to give like a little anecdote, in 2013 when we played Saracens in Twickenham, we had this whole make Twickenham home. And we had way more Ulster fans than Saracens fans at the game, and we covered Twickenham. They only used the lower bottom, but like that's the thing. You need, like, I don't know what it is. I think it's maybe because it's a bit of rugby fatigue in the Dublin side of things, because the Aviva got used a lot. And when I went there as well, there was a lot of it's very much became.
And it's such a long walk from the RDS.
Oh yeah, like it's such a long walk. It's terribly long, and you have to think as well. Like when I was there, and I don't like it becomes such a tourist-based club. It's very much like a Premier League team. When I was there was about 12 French guys next to me, and they just came just to see Leinster, and they kept on going every time Leinster scored. And I was like, listen lads, I'm used to this. I've had 15 years of this. But on the other side, there was like a Dutch rugby team. There was honestly about 40 of them, and they were all supporting Leinster as well. But you find that as well that a lot of people go and just make fun of the games because it's sort of a thing to do, because the Aviva is such a weird place when it's half empty and you're looking around going, what is this? I saw the Scarlets fans and I was like, it's their chance to make a lot more noise in Leinster, because
we did.
There's no.
They did. They were noisy. Yeah.
You did, but do you know what I mean? Like, it's so weird, and I think Leinster's so used to winning, not winning trophies, but just winning in general, that they've got this sort of manufactured. I think the game would have been a lot better at the RDS.
I think it's that it's almost like there's no win. There's draw or lose in terms of expectations because like I think they said it on comms, like if they had smashed the Scarlets by 50 points, no one would have been impressed. If they'd have snuck past the Scarlets by 2 points, no one would have been impressed. If they'd lost to the Scarlets, it would have been the biggest catastrophe in the history of rugby. So
Yeah.
I think I remember thinking that to myself during the Northampton game when Leinster were bashing away on the try line,
Yeah.
and I was like, if Leinster win this, it's not joy. It's not like punch the air in jubilation. It's just relief. That's the only
Yeah.
thing they can get, and it's just a weird thing for the club. I just want to talk about maybe get Policeman Ben's thoughts on this. Is the Osborne try? So this has upset a lot of Scarlets fans in terms of whether this should have been given or not. So, what's the panel's opinion of this?
So this was one of two things that I was a little bit disappointed about. The second one was that crooked line out that led to Alec Hepburn getting the sin binning over in the far
I
corner.
am much saltier about that than I am this. And to be fair, that's not Holly's fault. The AR has had an absolute shocker with that crooked throw.
Yeah. This one, I mean, what did she give on-field decision try, or did she go try yes or no?
I think it was
on-field
on-field try, and
that's what it is. It's the framing of the question when you go up to the TMO. Is there any available evidence to overturn the decision I made? And it's going to be clear and obvious. And unfortunately, I think what's happened here, because I know the rule has changed. If there's no clear separation, it touches some part of the body and it grounded without a knock on. I think that's why it's a try. Yeah. I think if she goes try yes or no, I think you'd go not sure. So if you're not sure, you go no. But because she's awarded the try, I think that's why it's been given. I'd be as a neutral. I'm disappointed. As a Scarlets fan, I'd be pretty pissed off. I think about that, but I'm more pissed off about the layer.
I was annoyed at the time. Unfortunately, I do think it is a legal try. I think because you are allowed to ground it with the body, and it does look like he does ground it with the body.
Yeah, kind
of on my experience of the game. I went into this game like thinking that we would give Leinster problems, and I did think that there was a chance for a win. You got to remember that Leinster team had 10 British and Irish Lions, so 10 out of the best 40 players in Britain and Ireland. And the Scarlets had 0. That's not how the game looked. That's not how it went. I think all of our tries, we scored 3 tries, 3 tries to 4. So, I can't argue with the result. I can't argue that the better team didn't win. But all of the tries that we scored were fantastic. The Johnny Williams try was from a kick return started on our own half. The set play that Tommy Rogers scored and can now add Geordie Barrett to his Kirtley Aronson and Canan Moody in terms of having absolutely shown them up this season.
Geordie Barrett was quiet, wasn't he?
He was quiet. He took. Sorry, just while we're talking about refereeing calls, Geordie Barrett took a shot off Johnny Williams, and it was kind of. You could say it was a no arms hit. So Geordie Barrett's running a dummy line, one of those very close dummy lines that he makes contact with the defender. He makes contact with the defender. And Johnny Williams just kind of dips his shoulder and gets him right in the ribs with his shoulder. The play goes on, and Leinster keep the ball for about 30 seconds, and there's a knock on somewhere else on the field. The TMO comes in and says, Holly, you need to give a penalty against the Scarlets for that shot by Johnny Williams. For me, it didn't have a material impact on the game because Leinster didn't lose the ball. And you could say, okay, technically he shouldn't have tackled the player without the ball, but you could flip it around just as easily and say, Geordie Barrett's
running a double line.
Yeah. It's obstruction there. So that's just one of those little Leinster decisions that you get in Dublin of like, ooh, by the way, I've noticed this. Yeah, they need to kick down the field. But as I was saying about
crooked line.
As I was saying about the Scarlets tries, all fantastic tries. I love watching us. I'm sad that I don't get to watch us again for it's a really long off season. And then this one, like I couldn't believe this was happening because it's genuinely my thought during this was surely she's blown the whistle and we've not heard it. But no, it just played on and then we got the try. And then
The
they had to
TMO got
TMO
involved
it.
in this as well. Yeah, but
Yeah,
I don't
TMO
understand
it.
why.
Like, and immediately on the first replay, it was he's grounded it. And then he went, just hang on, I just better watch it from another angle.
Mm.
Like, so it's
I
just
tell you what,
annoying. But
I tell you what Blair Murray did, which was very, very clever, especially when you're sprinting 80, 90 meters, is turning around past the ball so you don't have the risk of knocking it on when you go to ground it.
Yeah.
If that makes sense. So he's changed his position of gravity. Doing that after you sprinted through 80, 90 meters on a loose ball, 2 or 3 kicks through, that's mature and very
you have
clever
to
play.
watch as well the way he stays on side with
Yeah.
Ellis Mead.
Oh, yeah.
So Ellis Mead's
Just
obviously
tracking him.
hacked it and
Yeah.
gone for it. They slow and then they go again. Like, I love that. That's exciting rugby. And like I said, I love watching the Scarlets. Look, there was things that the Scarlets tried in this game. Dwayne Peel spoke about being brave, and sometimes you can interpret that of like a participation trophy type thing of kind of like well done for being here. But I think what they meant was the Scarlets tried things to disrupt Leinster. Like, for example, we threw pretty much every line out to the back. Like Tane Plumtree would go back almost beyond the 15, get lifted. Quite humorous at times, seeing his arms flail around as he got lifted up there. Now that's come from something that we've seen in analysis because we don't normally do that. Did it work? Probably not, but it showed that we were willing to try something. And contrast that with Leinster, where it just feels like they're just following the instructions every single game. And look, we're hammering Leinster. They won, and they finished top of the league and stuff. So fair enough. But
I'd
it's-
like
it's- it
to
was some-
just
it
get
was
in
some-
here.
it was a bit. Just hang on. It was a bit like Jameson Gibson Park. Every restart, he kicked it to touch and gave us a line out in their half. And I'm like, the Scarlets are a set piece try origin team. We're all about strike plays and things. Why are you giving us a line out in your half? That just suggests to me that they had done zero analysis on the Scarlets. All their processes are so set in concrete that they just do it.
It's too rigid. Perhaps.
Yeah, it's just so even though Leinster scored 4 tries, won the game, were the better team, dominated the stats, you're kind of thinking should be looking better than this. Go on, Mohammed.
Yeah, I was hoping, it was a long shot, but I was hoping Scarlet would do something here. And it was a frustrating game because Leinster pull ahead, Scarlets make it close again, then Leinster pull ahead, Scarlet makes it close again. Yeah. It's this thing of like the teams with the sort of lesser ability just can't put enough good things together in a row to actually sort of take a game away from the opponent. But on the upside, Scarlets had a solid game. I think the sort of marquee players that we're aware of in general, like Blair Murray, played well, Tane Plumtree played well, reasonably well. Sam Caslow has come sort of, I don't know, from a non-Welsh perspective, his star has faded somewhat, but he had a good game. I think because those of us who don't follow Welsh rugby that closely will see a guy get picked by after this mass exodus in the national Welsh team, we'll see a guy get picked at 10 and we think, oh, that's the guy they've anointed as the next guy, and then plays so up and down. I will also say that I was aware that Via Fafita was at the Scarlets, but then when I looked into it more closely, and I understand he's no longer a New Zealand player, he's now swapped to Tonga. Like it's kind of like we still perceive him to be like a really, really good player. So it's almost like surprising to see him in Scotland as opposed to like pro second division in France or first division in France. So I would like to know how you guys pulled that off.
They
But
signed him from
obviously,
Wasps.
yeah, he was
And
at
he's on a
Wasps.
4-year contract. Yeah,
Yeah.
and he is still a really, really good player. If he
Yeah,
was
yeah.
Welsh, he would start every game for Wales for sure.
Mm. Oh, those are my thoughts. All right.
I think I really like see Scarlet's coaching setup is what I wanted Ulster's to be. I feel like we started to go on the downhill once we lost Jared Payne and Dwayne Peel in the same season. So that's when, it's the stuff like the strike plays off set piece. That's real Dwayne Peel sort of his attack. I remember when our attack under him, it was real based off those set plays. I think that's where we saw some of our best tries. I'm thinking like Jacob Stockdale against Racing Metro a couple of years ago. based off a line out, chipped it over the top. I'm not saying that Dwayne Peel might have invented the Jacob Stockdale chip, but it's certainly an idea that I think that it might have been came up with him, and the likes of Jared Payne as well. I can't say a bad word about him. He was my favorite player growing up, and it kept on cutting to him in the coach's box, and I was like, oh yeah, it's Jared Payne. It's nice to
Well,
see
he's been linked to the Connacht job now.
He has, hasn't
Yeah,
he?
yeah. Which I as an Ulster fan, I'd be quite disappointed by, because I would have wanted him to take the coaching job for us, because I think he's a quality coach as well. He was our defensive coach, and I don't think you'd take much shit from him, to be honest. He's a lovely guy, but you can see when he switches on. Do you know what I mean?
It's a bit of a mismatch though, with Munster getting the guy from the Chiefs and Connacht get the assistant coach from the Scarlets. It's like,
Well, we've got Richie Murphy, who was the kicking coach at Leinster this time 10 years ago. So, we've got a guy that is only under 20 international based. So this is his first senior appointment. And then, Leinster, we all know who's the coach of Leinster. So, I think it's quite I think getting Jared Payne back into the IRFU fold is a good thing. It's very good. And I think he would do well at Connacht if they sign him. So, yeah.
that would be a massive blow to us. So that would be a massive blow to us. All right, so that's Leinster Scarlet. So if we continue back in time, we go to Bulls versus Edinburgh. Okay, so Ben, you've not had much to talk about so far, so I'm going to break with tradition and let you speak on this game first. And to be fair, I said, because I did a stats kind of deep dive on it, and the stats told me that this should have been the most one-sided quarterfinal, and it both was and wasn't.
Yeah, so I thought it was going to be closer. I think, like I mentioned, I think 5 or 6 games preceding this have been decided by 8 or less points. This one was 9, so I was pretty close with my prediction. The problem for us was the 15-minute period either side of the break, where we conceded, I think it was 5 tries in the 32nd minute up to the 51st, potentially. They scored almost all of their
31,
points.
36, 30, 42, 46. So 15 minutes. Or even you could go, Bulls scored all but one of their tries in 20 minutes.
Yeah, so that was where the issue was. I'm not saying I'm disappointed, but I'm slightly puzzled by the fact that we went into a 21-8 lead at 30 minutes, and then I was in a pub at Finsbury Park yesterday. One of my really good friends is also a Scarlets fan, so we were there for the back-to-back. And I said, if we don't concede before half-time, I think we'll be able to hold on. We couldn't, and then they obviously just went through the gears, sort of that next 10-minute period after half-time, and went into a commanding lead that we played catch-up, but we were never really going to get it back within reach of the last 5-10 minutes being within a penalty kick or a 5-pointer. We played so well in the first half. Now we played really well in the last 25 minutes, but I think it was just they didn't have the energy levels for the full 80, and that's been the problem all season. It's not been able to turn out an 80-minute performance. And when you go somewhere like Pretoria, high altitude, where they've been training for a number of weeks and are used to that sort of altitude, we go there, that's what cost us. I think it's that middle 20-minute period where we just seem to slow down a little bit. Ross Thompson it's an interesting season for him. He was absolutely fantastic yesterday. Both his tries were really well taken. I think he kicked all the conversions available to him. Off the top end, he might have missed one. And he played really, really well. And he is steadily improved to the end of the season, and now probably I think he might go as the starting 10 over the summer for Scotland with Adam Hastings. I'd say those two will probably go together with Ben Healy, maybe behind them. At the start of March, my thoughts about Sean Everett, I wasn't particularly happy with the direction the side was going. They obviously kicked up a gear. I think the knockout rugby helped in the Challenge Cup, obviously beating the Lions and the Bulls at home. Obviously, Bath was a step too far, and it feels like we've been playing South African teams every week for the last 3 months. It's been, just the way the fixtures have fell. But ultimately, I think there were a couple of things missing, and it was just that front row power just wasn't there in the period it needed to be. Duhan went but didn't play, and I think that probably cost us as well. I think we needed that extra, strength and power on one wing. Darcy Graham and him are very different type of wingers. Darcy Graham will come off the inside and take that quick ball, whereas Duhan will give you that power and width that I think we probably missed yesterday with with Harry Patterson being a bit too similar to Darcy Graham. I think we do benefit from that little and large combination on the wings. But overall, I think it's probably the best I could have hoped for 2 or 3 months ago as a close quarterfinal loss. I think I read a lot of reporting yesterday, immediately after the game. I don't think there's any shame in a 9-point loss to a Bulls side who will be looking to win the tournament and hopefully get a home final if Leinster and Glasgow goes the way of Glasgow. But I think to be objective and fair, I'm pretty happy with the outcome. I don't think we were going to win. We were close. It would have been nice to have won, but I'm not unduly disappointed about it.
Muhammed, Willie LaRue, he's good.
Yeah, it's really
he
good.
Is good.
It shows up at the right time. Also, quarterfinal of URC, really sort of an asset to that team as leadership and execution, and in the important moments and doing things that people might not even have thought he was able to do. Still,
coach on the pitch, he's often spoken about as.
Yeah. I mean, he's been everywhere. He broke through at Griquas, and then he went to the Cheetahs, I believe. Then he was at the Sharks for a bit, and then he went overseas. So, and he's defying his age. There was speculation that he was going to go back overseas, but then the Bulls threw more money at him, so he didn't go to Bath. Excellent execution by the Bulls. They stayed calm when Edinburgh had an excellent start. I saw you on a podcast earlier this week, where your podcast partner was saying, team's going to lose their legs when they were talking about the Reinaldo Botha, the Namibian flanker,
Yeah.
or inside. So for saying that, well, because he played for the Sharks and he played for the Bulls, and he was saying, people come through to the Bulls, especially if you're flying all the way from Scotland. And you might have a good first half, but then you lose your legs in the second half. So I think it's very mature of the Bulls to go, okay, these guys are now 11, 12 points up. Let's just stay calm. We stick to our structures. I mean, what's interesting about the Bulls is that Ruan Nokia is clearly world class. I've been watching this guy for a while. They're getting the most out of experience of a guy like Marcel Coetzee.
Him being
Adams.
at 7 is weird to me, Nokia.
Yeah.
He was so good at 5 for the Springboks.
Exactly, because the two guys they're having actually play at lock right now are JF van Heerden, who's very young and very big. I mean, they just manufacture those guys in Paarl, and then they move to Pretoria. Kobus Wiese, who's got the exact same name as much older Springbok. He was obviously at Sale. He came back to the Bulls, and we've discussed this before about the Bulls recruiting very sort of mid-20s, high potential guys. I will give a special shout out to Harold Foster. He was actually at the Lions in Super Rugby when the Lions made 3 Super Rugby finals in a row. I know the Lions aren't in the tournament anymore, but it's also worth noting that the Lions have the system where they can actually build towards, and I hope they do that again, especially if they retain players, although that's being quite difficult these days. Canan Moodley, again, excellent game. Darcy Graham on the Edinburgh side. Another player going, hey, and we're going to talk about
on that plane to Australia.
We're going to talk about TJ later, that type of thing, because you guys just mentioned that Thompson might start for Scotland in the internationals coming up, and the test games coming up. But if TJ doesn't get picked, which I think he will eventually get picked for the Lions, he should start for Scotland. Well done to the Bulls. It was more entertaining than the Leinster game that we spoke about before, because the Bulls kept letting them in. But then there was that middle period between after 20 minutes when Edinburgh started getting a bit more tired, and the Bulls shifted gears, put some points on. Edinburgh came a bit closer, then shifted gears again. So I think the Bulls are really smart the way they're managing this last period, because they had this game earlier on a Saturday, whereas the Sharks had a very late game, which was okay, not so bad, but then a game that went to extra time and then had an emotional ending. And we've discussed this before about being a professional athlete in a very late game that pumps you full of adrenaline. I don't think any of the Sharks fans have slept in the last 24 hours. So Sharks players, not fans. But as Hughes Cat makes a cameo there. So I think we'll get to the predictions for next week a bit later. But well done to the Bulls. Professional. I will say though, kicks in important times. Yes, it didn't come back to haunt him this week, but early in the game they were missing a few crucial kicks, so might have to work on that. That was Kriel and Keegan Johannes missing some that you might want to get.
Yeah,
was-
Johannes had a hit and miss
Missed the
game,
first three, didn't he?
Yeah.
He'd have moments like he scored a brilliant try, but he also just he didn't look like he hasn't grasped the jersey. I think they're just waiting for Hurson to come back, and the fact that they've signed Pollard, it's no secret where there was area of weaknesses for the Bulls. I want to mention Cameron Hanekom, who we haven't actually spoken that much about on this podcast over the months. I don't
He was
think,
man of the
but
match. I think he was voted man of the match, Vodacom man of the match yesterday, wasn't
it's
he?
the way
It was
that
incredible.
it's the way that he gets tackled, or theoretically,
Post-contact
like
meters.
someone hits him, and then he just goes, "Oh, okay, I'm going to carry on running
Okay.
now," and then just he just doesn't go to ground. It's like he's got tree roots that go under the ground and keep him up.
It reminds me so much of when we signed Marcel Coetzee before his ACL injury. He was very much like that. Whether or not that's Coetzee passing on words of wisdom just to like get big big legs and just power through. There's a point that I want to make on Bulls really quickly. Sorry for taking away from that 8 point. The Bulls 9 looked quite shaky as well yesterday in parts.
Papir, he does
Papir,
have
yeah.
a shaky performance in him.
yeah.
That's probably why he's not in the Springbok conversation.
Yeah, he looks very shaky in parts, and I think with the likes of having a 9 and 10 that looked a bit shaky, it showed how good the Bulls pack was. Do you know what I mean? Like you can have a shaky 9 and 10, but still have a class pack and a class back line to help as well. I also want to shout out to Ross Thompson as well, who I thought just was brilliant. I thought he was really good. I agree with you, Ben. I think you've got a real sort of you've got a makings of quite a good 10 to kick on from Finn Russell when he eventually retires at some point.
Yeah, I think so. I think he was a little bit slow at the start of the season, but I think he wasn't playing that much of Glasgow at the end of last season off the top man. There was final shout I'll give is Wes Husen. He was unbelievable all season and again scored 2 tries yesterday. Very deserved winner of the Player of the Year award at Edinburgh had their awards. I think it was Friday last week, same night as the Challenge Cup final or the night before. And he's a phenomenal player and he can play both wings and fullback. And he was very good under the high ball yesterday. Both tries he took were incredible. The first try was very, very well played. I know the Bulls were down to 14 at that point. And then again, his second try, sort of mid-second half, where we kind of sort of pulled it back in. And then, of course, Magnus Bradbury drops the kickoff attempt, and the Bulls then have that pressure inside the 22. And I think Ross Thompson then took a yellow for a deliberate knock-on. So it's just that sort of momentum swings here and there that kind of took it away from us. But overall, I'm happy with our season, and we ran them close yesterday. I had a little bit of fear of me yesterday. It was going to be a 40-point game. It wasn't, and we didn't embarrass ourselves yesterday. We can come away with our heads held high, definitely.
Yeah, I agree. Okay, final game then of the quarterfinal stage was also the first one, which was Glasgow versus Stormers. So coming back to yourself, Ben, for this one. Some Stormers fans were quite confident going into this one. They'd obviously had a run of home games against non-playoff teams and had got a bit of momentum going. But is it fair to say that they found they were taught the levels in this one?
Yeah, absolutely. I think Roy Hamilton said midway through the game that Glasgow had won one of the last 5 before the knockouts had started.
Yeah.
But, yeah, Rory Darge's opening try was a touch of class. It was just very inventive play off the line out, wasn't it? And then Kyle Rowe again, a good try. I think George Horn again is just this scrum half who's just a terrier. Tom Jordan, I'm gutted he's off to Bristol, but what a game to sign off your career at Scotstoun. Going into
he's going to look ridiculous in the Premiership.
Yeah, Bristol.
He's going to be unplayable.
He will do. Yeah, and I think when you saw it going wrong for the Stormers is when Manny Libbok came on about 30 minutes in, and Sasha Feinberg was moved up to 12. Can't think off the top of my head what the Stormers starting 12's name was, and it didn't seem to work then either. I don't think their plan A or their plan B worked on Friday evening. But Glasgow gave away a lot of penalties. Andrew Brace was quite keen on penalising them at the breakdown. I think it was 16-4, 16-3 penalties off the top of my head. But I think it was just
4, yes.
Yeah, it's just Glasgow just didn't concede them in dangerous territory. And
Well,
Glasgow just,
the territory was Glasgow only had 34% territory at home.
I think the Stormers had 25 minutes camped in and around the 22 in the second half after Glasgow scored 2 tries very quickly post the break, didn't they, off the top of my head? But the tackle success that Glasgow had was, again, very, very high. Stormers wasn't so high. And I think it's just those margins that Glasgow just, had the edge pretty much everywhere. And I think we'll get on to predictions, but I think Leinster will be a little bit concerned about how Glasgow played on Friday night.
So, Mohammed, what's your take
that,
on the Stormers? Their season's now over. How do you rate their season? It feels like a repeat of last season, really, almost.
Yeah. Well, clearly I'm not a Stormers fan, but I was hoping they were going to win, but I still felt it was 70-30 in favor of Glasgow. Stormers were up against it. We were playing, not we. They're playing away. Damien Willemse wasn't there. Frans Malherbe is injured. Damien Willemse obviously suspended. Even losing Salman Murat so early in the game for concussion, head knock, that was a bit tough. I think Sinatla can hold his head up high. He had an excellent end of the season. I think that's gonna he won't play any Currie Cup because he's played a lot of URC and EPCR. So he can use that momentum, because remember, he was out for quite some time, and initially I wasn't aware as to why he was out, but he actually was involved in a car accident, so he was not available for at least like a 2-year period. So he's come back, he's bulked up a bit. I mean, and we've watched this guy shift from 7s to 15s, and yeah, he's adapted quite well. They were just not in it, unfortunately. I actually thought that Sasha Feinberg Ngomazulu was going to start at 10, because there's often an article and a talk here and there saying they're not that fond of starting him at 12 because he's got so many injuries so early in his career, and he's not a small dude. He's quite bulky. I mean, scale wise, if you watch him on TV and he's standing next to a lock, obviously he'll look smaller. But so trying to protect Sasha Feinberg Ngomazulu and bring him close to the ball, they played him at 10, but that wasn't working. Dan du Plessis got hurt. Suleiman Hatzenberg got hurt during the game, in addition to Salman Murat. Interesting that the Bulls have very heralded not only guys that they've recruited back to South Africa, loose forwards like blind sides that can play lock, that type of thing, but the Stormers, on the other hand, have like Marcel Thinnison, they have Paul de Villiers, they have Lonel. These guys are. One or two of them is a baby box, but they don't have as much profile. But I must say they've done well. Early in the commentary, the commentator said refer to Herschel Jantjies as Herschel Gibbs. So we all make mistakes.
Chris Patterson, I didn't understand that. That was weird.
Yeah. Chris Patterson is clearly a very he's been to the Newlands cricket. Yeah, he's been to the Newlands cricket ground, which is a fantastic ground, by the way. Mari Libbok actually made an excellent impact when he came off the bench, but then Sasha Feinberg and Ngomazulu had to shift to 12. And what was interesting is that even though we just assumed he shifted 12, a lot of attacks were the scrum off passing to first Sasha, then Mani. And Mani obviously had a nice run there. Galante had an okay game. Obviously, within a Scotland perspective, if a game is played in Scotland, the team with the most mullets wins, and Glasgow had Kyle Rowe and
careful
Stafford.
JP Stafford McDowell's got on. JP Dupree's has definitely got a mullet. He's about 6'8", and he's the tallest player in Premiership in professional rugby, I think, at the moment. He's got a mullet. Kyle Rowe's definitely got a mullet.
Exactly. So
Adam Hastings had some strange sideburn kind of combo going on last night. It was like a grade 0 and then like a mop on top. I don't know.
Yeah. And we spoke about that last week of like Kyle Rowe's mullet, but Kyle Rowe's mullet seems to have turned into a perm a little, so he's got to clean that up. And then the last thing I'll say is, Nathan Macbeth did okay off the bench. I'm looking at the squad now. There was something I was. And obviously TJ. I think it's because I watched TJ play and he just looked like an okay player. And then this season, somehow, like also excellent hands in the back line from Glasgow.
But he was playing for the Ayrshire Bulls 3.5 years ago, off the top of my head. It's not that long ago since he was playing sort of county rugby, essentially, like Super Six, I think it was. Yeah, it's crazy. That is. Such a development.
And this is the Glasgow sender for Henko Venter. Henko Venter, as everybody knows, is a member of the victorious Sharks 2020 Super Rugby team. Yes, we did win Super Rugby that year. I don't care if it was cancelled because we won 6 out of 7 games and 3 of them in Australia and New Zealand. So I still feel very sad about that. But yeah, those are my thoughts.
There's a mass exodus from Glasgow, and I think it's going to be a change in the guard there. Cordero's going, Cancellieri's going, Dupree's is going, Jack Mann's going, TJ's going, which is obviously the biggest loss. So there's going to be a significant change in the guard. There's not been many names come in. It'll be interesting to see what Glasgow decide to do in the off-season. There has been, I think, by Nucifera, if I'm getting his name right, pronunciation right, there is a focus on... There is a focus on...
Sorry.
There is a focus on more Scottish-based talent, and Edinburgh tend to have more Scottish, either born or qualified players than Glasgow do, which is why you're seeing more players leave Glasgow, because there needs to be this sort of redefinition of who should be playing for the 2 professional teams. But Cancellieri, again, one of those wingers, unfortunately won't play. I think he's either injured or now unavailable. But he's an excellent winger for Glasgow over a long period of time. Sad to see him go, but yeah, I think he's fallen foul of the new rule with having a Scottish-dominated club.
Oh dear. Okay.
I just heard I heard Nucifora's name and it just was...
Yeah, you start to panic and shake. Yeah, I saw it.
Yeah, honestly, he's ruined. Oh, no, man.
Okay, so that's the end of the quarterfinal review. So before we go on to predicting the semi-finals, just want to remind everybody that if you've gotten this far and you are enjoying what you are watching or listening to, please consider subscribing to the YouTube channel. We want to get to 2,000 subscribers is our next big goal, and there's going to be exciting YouTube things happening next season. Or if you're listening on audio formats, give us a 5-star review and maybe even share a link with a mate if you are so inclined. And if you fancy a go at podcasting, then get in touch. So a lot of us, including myself, made our podcasting debuts with the Rap family, and it's a family that we're always looking to grow. So at the moment, we've got mostly Welsh rugby podcasts, but we've got this is URC podcast. We are going to be bringing on board an American rugby podcast, and we're looking to add different ones all the time, especially moving into next season. So if you are a fan of rugby from anywhere in the world and you think there's a gap in the rugby podcasting market, get in touch with us and let us know. Or specifically, if you are an American rugby fan, we are looking for hosts for an American rugby show. So definitely put your hand up for that. All right, then, it's semi-final time. Only 2 games to predict. Leinster versus Warriors and Bulls versus Sharks. Both games kind of hard to call. Leinster should be clear favourites against Glasgow, but they're just in a bit of a funny spot, even given the fact that Glasgow, as Ben said, had only won 1 game in 5 before they beat the Stormers. And then Bulls should be comfortably better than the Sharks, but we all know better than to back against the Sharks, because despite how rubbish they are, they keep winning. So let's start with Leinster Glasgow first. Adam, where do you see this one going?
I see a Leinster win, but I see a Leinster win within 3 points. I think it's going to be sort of drama packed, but as we know that Leinster can do, is that they can topple teams if they want. Well, we didn't necessarily see that against Northampton, but I think what Glasgow are missing that Northampton had was just, I don't think that they can replicate what Northampton had against Leinster. I think Leinster in the Aviva again. I think 3 points Leinster. Yeah, I think that's definitely what I'm going to go for.
Ben, what are you saying?
I think Hugh Jones' availability to be pivotal. There's this nagging Achilles injury that he has that seems to keep flaring up. That doesn't look like there's a long-term cure for that. And Franco Smith said that in his many words earlier this week. It might affect his lines availability. If he's available, there is metrics between him and Stafford McDowell. There's an affinity between him and Sione Tupeloyo at 12 or 13. Mm-hmm. I think that's the only way that they could beat Leinster is if Hugh Jones is available. And if he is available, I'd say by 3. If he's not, Leinster will win by 5.
Okay, and Muhammed?
I hope Glasgow win, but I think Leinster are going to win. Shout out to Carl Steyn. I looked at his profile a bit closer the other day, and I can't believe this guy went to school in Johannesburg, played for Griquas, and is now captaining a team in Glasgow. Good for him.
His mum's Scottish, though, to be fair, so he's actually Scottish.
Oh, that's good. So
Yeah,
you didn't have to wait for qualification or anything.
no.
No. Oh, well.
His accent has changed over the years as well. Like he's still got a bit of that Sapa twang, but he's got some jock in him as well now. You can hear it when he's speaking, a bit like Bundy Aki over in
Oh
Galway.
yeah. And Mike Hansen as well. All of a sudden, you can.
And then second one, Bulls versus Sharks. Mohammed.
Hugh, what are you predicting? Leinster, Glasgow?
Okay. I didn't realize I got a vote.
You do. Push it.
Again, the brain says Leinster one way or another. I think probably Glasgow to give Leinster a real wobble, but Leinster just to have one of those games, a bit like they had against the Scarlets, where they score first and are always a score ahead, even if it gets to squeaky bum time at the end. So that's my prediction. Okay, let's go to Bulls Sharks. Mohammed, what's your prediction for this one?
Oh, it's also African game. Bulls are favorite to win. If I had to pick, I'd probably Bulls. Obviously, I want the Sharks to win. But we have beaten the Bulls in a Currie Cup semi-final recently, which we should have lost. We've beaten them twice in the round robin this season. One game, really, the Bulls should have won. One game, we were slightly better. So, we're gonna stay in Durban. My understanding is that's what the Sharks do. They stay in Durban. They fly over to Pretoria at the least, the last possible minute that makes it practical. The concern is that the Bulls had a very workmanlike Saturday. They got their day over. They probably had a braai afterwards. No, they probably definitely had a braai afterwards.
They had the one the night before because Sean Everett was around the Bulls.
I interviewed a Scarlets player whilst they were down in South Africa, and I said, "Have you had a braai since you've been down there?" And they went, "Every day." He said, "There's nothing else to eat."
So the concern really is the build-up. The Sharks are going to be emotionally and physically sort of drained. So hopefully we can pick ourselves up. My hope is Glasgow win, Sharks win, and we have a Durban final. And then hopefully I can hitchhike my way all the way to the East Coast. Yeah, I'll have 2 weeks then.
Ben?
I think this is where, and I didn't raise it earlier, but my questioning of the reason why extra time takes place yesterday. What a waste of time the extra time was. There was just scrum. It was the last match of the 4. I think post-season, if I'm in charge of the coordination committee, whoever it is that looks at the format and the rules of knockout rugby, get rid of extra time, just go straight to place kicks. It does not benefit anybody that 20 minutes had to take place yesterday. The Sharks are really going to take a long time to recover from that. You saw how tired they were. It was wet, it was slick, the ball was good. Pimpy was knocking it on, and he's brilliant. You know, his handling is usually fantastic. That shows you how pointless that 20 minutes was. There was zero chance of any points being scored in that extra time yesterday. No one got close. It was within the 10-metre lines pretty much the whole time. 8 scrums in that second 10 minutes, I think, off the top of my head.
Yeah,
one scrum took 2 minutes, and that's a fifth of the
I do remember in the second half of extra time, especially. I remember looking at the clock and going, "Oh, it's been 7 minutes already. Nothing's happened."
Yeah, exactly. So I think the Sharks have to travel. They've got to go from the coast to the hills, and I think the Bulls will just have too much for them. I do want to see a competitive game. I'm just not sure if we'll see one.
Adam?
I think the Bulls are going to win it, primarily by the statement that Ben made. 100 minutes of rugby. Everyone looked knackered. I felt knackered. The guy in the white shirt that came on randomly looked a bit knackered as well. Wonder if he's going to be there. But I think, I think the Bulls are going to be in it. I think those are probably my favorites to win it. The whole thing this season. I think they're just a really well-oiled machine. And when you have like the likes of players coming through, that I was like looking through the team sheet. That's one of them is like 6'7" and 122 kilos, play second row. I'm just a bit like, and he's only 21 as well. And it's like it's going to be a bit of a problem in coming World Cups. But yeah, I think Bulls are going to win. Is it going to be as close as Glasgow Leinster? Possibly not. But I'd say it'd still be within 10 to 15 points. I reckon. I think Sharks would have a good second half push as they normally do. To create a bit of drama, but I don't want to see another extra time again. I don't want to see too many scrums.
Yeah, for me, the Bulls are clearly a better team than the Sharks. It's not up for question. It being second and third in the table is weird, but The Sharks just win, regardless of logic or analytics or anything. So I'm done backing against the Sharks. So I'm going to say the Sharks are going to win, even though they absolutely shouldn't. The Bulls are clearly better and have all the advantages. So I'm starting to think that the Sharks are going to win the whole bloody thing. So that's my prediction.
We'll hold you to that, Hugh.
Yeah, all right. It's one of them. I don't mind being wrong. I never mind being wrong. But anyway, one thing I do mind is whether or not the show ends. And so that's what's happening now. So my thanks to all of my three panelists, as usual. Thank you to everybody for listening/watching. Make sure that you subscribe. Make sure that you hit like. Make sure that you've probably already commented. And we will see you after the semi-finals. Enjoy the rugby, and I hope everybody's team wins. Cheers.
Cheers, guys. See you later.
That was the United Rugby Rewind. Please rate, review and share us on socials if you can, and join us next week for more of the same. And until then, enjoy your rugby.
This podcast is part of the Sports Social Podcast Network.